on behalf of the CarIPI team and the EU IPO, welcome to our webinar this morning, where we will provide you with information on the EU Horizon program and how CARIFORUM research and development teams in different institutions can benefit from this program. We will have a welcome remarks and brief remarks from Ms. Alexis Downs Amsterdam, the Director General of the CARIFORUM Directorate, to address you. Alexis?
Good morning again, colleagues, and welcome to the Horizon Europe Program Information Day for the Caribbean. I bring, of course, greetings on behalf of the Secretary General of CARIFORUM, who is particularly interested in the innovation component of the Economic Partnership Agreement. This particular event, as you were advised earlier, is organized by the CarIPI project, which is a component of the 11th EDF, the European Development Fund, which supports the implementation and operation of the Economic Partnership Agreement between the EU and its member states and CARIFORUM states. We shorten the name of the program and we say EPA Support Program because it's quite lengthy. But the Economic Partnership Agreement is a trade and development agreement, and it envisages, among other things, initiatives to facilitate the participation of CARIFORUM states in the EU framework programs. The EU framework programs, as you will discover today, some of you, are the main research-related policy instruments of the EU. And since the first framework program, I think that was way back in 1984 for the period 1984 to 1987, which had a very minimal budget, but significant in that time, of just over 3 million. The budgets for framework programs have increased astronomically. The current framework program, as you know, is Horizon Europe, and that is valued way, way more, I think almost 100 billion euros. Unfortunately, however, CARIFORUM's participation in the framework programs has been dwindling. On a region-wide basis, there has been very limited participation by some CARIFORUM states. Most notably, there's been no direct participation by some of the smaller CARIFORUM states in the EU framework programs. Some states have therefore not been able to take full advantage of the provisions of the Economic Partnership Agreement. Increased participation by CARIFORUM can be engendered through activities such as the one today to assist CARIFORUM states to better respond to calls. The CARIFORUM Directorate therefore thanks the CarIPI team for organizing this webinar. I also want to express the deep appreciation of the region to the EU and its member states for not only financing this CarIPI project, but for the significant economic and developmental assistance and support provided to the region over the decades. Colleagues, I wish you a successful and productive webinar, and this, as Wendy said, is just the first in a series, I believe, of initiatives that will try to trigger the innovation dimension of the Economic Partnership Agreement. Again, good morning and thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexis, and thank you for setting the tone for the meeting today. As Alexis had said, in the context of the Horizon programs, research and development activities are essential for innovation to occur at all levels of the economy. And indeed, it is through research and development that intangible business assets and knowledge assets are created, and through the process of innovation, these assets can be monetized to benefit businesses, consumers, and largely global economies. Today, we have a cadre of international experts who will present international and regional perspectives in relation to research and development and the Horizon program. They will be coming from the University of Alicante, the International Cooperation Agency, Uruguay, and the University of the West Indies. We will now have our first speaker, who is Maite Irazabal. I hope I got that correctly. but I'm sorry, you can probably then reintroduce yourself, your name when you have the floor. Maite holds a degrees in the areas of international affairs, design, evaluation, and management of projects of public interest, territorial policies and the environment, and also in technology and innovation management. She is currently project officer of the Horizon 2020 program in the liaison office with the European Union in the Directorate of International Cooperation and Projects of the Ministry of Education and Culture. She will speak to us today on the topic of national contact points networks in relation to the Horizon program. Maite, welcome.
Thank you. One thing is nowadays I'm in the international agency, in the Uruguayan Agency for International Cooperation, and I'm a project manager of Horizon Europe.
Okay.
And my name is Maite Irazabal. You pronounce it well. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to talk about opportunities for your countries. First of all, for us, it's really important to increase participation of CARIFORUM countries in Horizon Europe. So I hope, and I think all the panelists, I hope that this session would be useful. And after the session, you can ask me, you are going to have my email, there is it, and you can send me emails whenever you want, okay? So what is Horizon Europe? I'm going to talk really fast because I think everyone knows, and maybe other speakers will speak about this. It's the 9th framework program of the European Commission in the area of research and innovation. It's a European program, but it's open to the world. And I think, and I always said that they need us as a unique word working together for a same reason. And it's not only finances European researchers, but also non-European researchers and entities. So it's really important to increase our participation. I'm going to say it a lot of times, but it's really important. And what is the importance of participating in this program? Because you can develop ambitious and innovative research projects. You can access to new market and new networks and alliances, access to new knowledge that you couldn't imagine, but it's really great and it's a huge opportunity. It gives you the possibility of having mobility around Europe, attract talent and economical investments, gain global visibility for your institutions, improve research exploration, and gives you the possibility to access to the main research infrastructures in the whole world. And finally, it's being able to deal with global challenges together with the scientists in the world. What are the national contact points of the Horizon Europe? Horizon Europe, it's divided in 17 areas for national contact points. National contact points are professionals responsible for offering advice and information to all the people interested in participating in the program. For example, in Uruguay, I'm a national contact point, but we work, I'm not going to spoil myself, but I always do that. The national contact points, they have a technical profile. Each country designates their national contact points. They are in charge of disseminating information, advise potential applicants, offer support during the project execution. A basic function of a national contact point, it's I'm going to a meeting with anyone. So I want to, and I always do that. I advise people that this line of international cooperation exists. And then after the meeting, we can talk about Horizon Europe, but always keep it in mind to advise people that this exists, and it's really important. Here where it says funding and tenders, the funding and tenders, it's the portal of the European Commission. It's hyperlinked if you want to check it. Sorry. And how is the designation of the designation procedure for the national contact points? Each country has to designate those persons who are going to be the national contact point for each area. You could designate one or more persons for each area, and it has a procedure to do that. The first part is to the national authority has to write a letter of official designation of the people with the names and the contact, all the information of the people who are going to be national contact points. This letter should be addressed to Mr. Daniel Paquet. He is the director of DG and Research of Innovation. It must be written in English, and to the letter of appointment of the NCPs, the written information and signature of each NCP must be added. What does it mean? That each NCP has to sign another letter, really small one, that says, I agree by being an NCP. You can ask me for examples of the letter also. And then apart from the letter, the two letters that I mentioned, the authority that it's going to make the nomination has to send 2 Excel sheets. If you never nominate NCPs, it's going to be 1. The 2, it's when you renominate or you change your NCPs. One is the Excel sheet with all the areas and the names of the persons designated, and the other one, in case you renominate, it's a clear one with the, you have to delete, but keep it the names of the people who are not going to be anymore, okay? And this is the information you have to send it to this email, and we put our email in copy because we keep a database of all the NCPs of the LAC countries. So it's important for us to have the record of the nominations that are being done in Latin American and Caribbean countries. So I'm working in the international agency, in the Uruguayan Agency for International Cooperation, and also in the LAC NCP network. The LAC NCP network, it's the network for the NCPs from Latin American and Caribbean countries. And our main objectives is to promote and increase the participation of the academy, the companies, the government and institutions in Horizon Europe, focus on democratizing the access and the opportunities among the different countries of this region. We want to strengthen the designation and motivation of the NCPs in the LAC region and improve the participation of these countries in this framework program. And we try every day to create a more effective and dynamic and proactive and sustainable network to foster closer cooperation between all national contact points from Latin America and Caribbean countries. Main activities, some of the activities that we try to do monthly, is we made national and international webinars. We make trainings with select countries and the institutions who belong to our countries. We make info days. We have a newsletter that we publish bi-monthly, and we have a database for the ones who receive that newsletter. If you want to receive it, you can send me an email and I'm going to add you in our database. We circulate information by LinkedIn and Twitter, and also by email. Which kind of information? For example, profiles of European institutions who are looking for partners in Latin America or in the world for a specific call. Or also Latin American institutions who are looking for partners in Europe. We try to democratize the access of the institutions who wants to participate in Horizon Europe. This is a picture of our newsletter, the Marie Curie Actions Guide that we published together with FECID, the Ministry of Education, of Spain. We have some guides. If you want to receive that information, you can send me an email again. And this is a bit, again, what we do. Another network that it's important for you to have it in your mind, in your loop, it's Enriching Lag. Enriching Lag, it's the European network of research and innovation centers and hubs from Latin America and Caribbean countries. It's a global network of centers and hubs that tries to promote the internationalization of science, technology, and innovation. And I'm part also of the Enriching Lag team, and our main objectives are in Lag. It's to encourage cooperation among European and Latin American research, innovation, and business organizations, and try to establish and deploy a self-sustainable center for business and innovation cooperation. What is Enriching Lag? It's an initiative financed by Horizon 2020 program. So European programs in order to disseminate the information and try to be part of the whole world, to get to each part of the world, they create new programs in order to promote international cooperation. And this is one of them. And it's really important if you want to participate in Horizon Europe to search the web page of Enriching Lag. They have I'm going to show it, a matchmaking platform that it's this. You can upload the profiles of your institutions, and then you can search for institutions in the whole world who have charged their profiles in order to find partners for European funds. And thank you very much. This was a brief presentation, but the idea was to try to mention some tools and channels that we have in Latin America and the Caribbean countries. If you want to get in contact with us and have information, be part of our database, receive our newsletter, I invite you to send us an email, and we are glad to share the information with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speakers will be from the University of Alicante. We have Elen García and Dr. Roberto Escarre. And Elen holds, they will be jointly sharing that presentation. Elen holds several degrees in the areas of environmental sciences, environment, mining, and sustainable development, international law, and European studies. Before joining the University of Alicante, she was working as head of the European Projects Office at the Marine Technology Center. And prior to that, she was in charge of international projects for different groundbreaking research centers, such as the Barcelona Institute of Science and Technology, the Institute of Photonic Sciences, and the Hospital Clinic in Barcelona, where she has submitted several European proposals and managed over 30 FP7 and Horizon 2020 projects. Roberto is a director of the Institutional Project Management Office at the University of Alicante. He holds degrees in economics of education, international and European relations, and in innovation. In the past 20 years, he has coordinated over 100 EU-funded international projects in over 80 countries. Roberto has worked as an expert and evaluator of various international organizations like the European Union, the European Patent Office, and the European Foundation for Management. They were both, as I said, they were both share the next presentation, which will cover areas of the Horizon Europe key funding program for research and innovation, and looking at the Horizon work programs, the portal, and IPRs. Welcome, both of you.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Okay, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, first of all, thanks to the CarIPI program for trusting us for this presentation. I will do, let's say, 1/3 of the presentation through, and the rest will be done by my colleague, Elen. Welcome to participants, of course, and thanks for participating in this event. We will try to give you an overview of the main opportunities for research cooperation between the EU and the CARIFORUM countries. Okay. So first of all, I think we're going to upload the presentation. Okay. So if we go to the index, the presentation is divided in 4 parts. The first one is devoted to explain the basics of the program. I mean, the structure, the difference between the different programs, I mean, the previous programs, how the funding is organized, etc. The second part is focused on the organization of the program. That means how the calls are organized by a research area. Third one is devoted to explain how to register and find information in the main EU platform for research and innovation, the participant portal. And the last point is focused on providing some guidance about how intellectual property rights are organized in EU-funded projects. Then the next presentations will be from our colleagues from the University of West Indies with some success stories. So let's start with the basis of the program. What is Horizon Europe? As Maite just explained, Horizon Europe is the largest research and innovation program in the world and the European Union's flagship research and innovation program. Its main objective is to drive the systemic changes needed to ensure a green, healthy, and resilient Europe. And there you may find the website of the program where you will have all the relevant information about this initiative. How the program is organized and which are the new elements of the program. Well, the program is implementing a new strategy considering the lessons learned from previous programs. More specifically, it will change the focus from administration to content. That means that the rules organized in the program have been designed to prioritize the scientific content of the program and not the rules themselves. Some examples. Well, the program enhances the synergies with other EU programs, which was a typical complaint in the previous initiative. There were overlapping between some initiatives, etc. Also, the program has simplified the model grant agreement. Again, this was a usual complaint in the previous program. The model grant was probably too complex and difficult to understand for participants. And finally, there is only one platform, the participant portal, which will facilitate not only the access to the EU funding, but also the management of the grants. So, what is this new synergistic approach? In this slide, you may see how synergies are expected to be exploited. Horizon Europe is the main research and innovation program. You see that on the top. But there are other EU programs like Erasmus+, like LIFE or Digital Europe, and also specific policies and actions with a sectoral approach, as the Common Agricultural Policy or the Maritime and Fisheries Fund. With the new program, a great effort has been carried out in order to promote the compatibility of the funds, so participants may have projects with different programs and activities with synergies between them, and also boosting a high level of complementarity. That means with no overlapping and with the alignment of strategic priorities and a common vision. And which is this common vision? Well, the EU vision is a sustainable, fair, and prosperous future for people and planet based on European values. So by promoting the EU competitiveness and growth, which, as we will see later on, it has some weaknesses. Fighting climate change, more than 1/3 of the budget is devoted to climate change, providing support in order to achieve the sustainable development goals. So these 3 issues. Which is the EU context in this area, specifically on research and innovation? Well, the context is that we have 7% of the world population. We develop 20% of the research and development, and we publish around 1/3 of the best scientific publications in the world. However, EU enterprises in research is much lower than the US, Japan, and Korea. And this means that if we do not improve this situation, our enterprises will be less innovative and less competitive in the global market. So how may this program improve this situation, the situation that I have just described? Well, first of all, the program has planned objectives in 4 areas: technological sovereignty, European competitiveness, and sustainable and resilient society. About the first one, technological sovereignty, the idea is to strengthen scientific and technological basis and European research area in order not to depend on other regions or other countries. For instance, in Europe, we suffered a recent semiconductor chip shortage that affected the EU automotive industry. Okay, so we have to try to avoid that. Regarding European competitiveness, the program aims to boost Europe's innovation capacity, competitiveness, and jobs. A sustainable society is also promoted by addressing citizen priorities and sustaining EU socioeconomic model and values. And finally, a more resilient society is also promoted by strengthening resilience and crisis preparedness. How are we going to track progress, and in which areas will the program have impact? The program will have scientific, economic, and societal impact. And in this figure, you may see some examples of different pathways to reach impact. For instance, in order to increase the scientific impact, we will strengthen the human capital in research and innovation. That means we will improve and provide trainings to the staff of universities, researchers, etc. Or in order to have economic impact, we will deliver benefits via research and innovation missions. The program is also expected to have a societal impact by, for instance, supporting the creation of more applications. Okay, so what kind of activities are funded by the program? Yeah, next slide. Yes, thank you. Horizon Europe aims to achieve its objectives by funding research, technological development, demonstration, and innovation. So mainly applied research, I mean, not basic research, so mainly applied research, via transnational collaboration between companies and research organizations belonging to EU countries, associated states, and third countries. How the program is planned, how is the strategy organized in order to achieve the objectives that we have just discussed? Well, first of all, the current program defines the orientations for the first 4 years, with the idea of attracting attention and cooperation at international and global level. This is organized, as you see there, by considering the research and innovation and strategic planning of Horizon Europe, the synergies between the different funding frameworks, the synergies across the other EU policy interventions, and the synergies with the member states' actions. So, which it means that we are trying to avoid overlapping with other research and innovation policies that are developed by countries, and of course taking advantage of potential synergies. How the program works in practice, and I think this is very important for you. In practice, we have a Horizon legislative package, including all the rules, the model contract, etc. We have a strategic plan covering actions from those years, 2021, 2024. The most important, we have different work programs that are published every 2 years. So interest parties may have time to plan their participation in these work programs. Sorry, they have time to prepare the proposals that will be later explained by my colleague. And in these work programs, you may find the different calls for proposals that later on will be launched. I also have to mention that the program have been drafted with a participatory approach. I mean, the main EU stakeholders, enterprises, SMEs, networks, universities, researchers have participated in the process. Okay. Following the strategy of the program, which are the 4 key strategic orientations? Well, as you see in the slide, there is one strategic orientation focused on the digital area, promoting an open strategic autonomy, by leading the development of key digital, enabling and emerging technology sectors and value chains to accelerate the digital green transitions through human-centered technologies and innovations. Another strategic orientation is dealing with the environment, restoring Europe's ecosystems and biodiversity, and managing sustainably natural resources to ensure food security and a clean and healthy environment. A third one, focus on sustainability and circular economy, making Europe the first digitally enabled circular, climate neutral and sustainable economy through the transformation of its mobility, energy, construction and production system. And finally, a fourth one devoted to inclusiveness, creating a more resilient, inclusive and democratic European society, prepared and responsive to threats and disasters, addressing inequalities and providing high quality healthcare, and empowering all citizens to act in the green and digital transitions. Okay, let's focus now on international cooperations. How important is international cooperations in the new program? Well, international cooperation is a priority in the current program, and it's crucial to tackling many global challenges as climate, water, etc. The program is open to researchers and innovators from around the globe who are encouraged to team up with EU partners in preparing proposals. And of course, you will see details on how this is organized in the next slides that will be presented by my colleague, Ellen. So, which are the 8 horizontal topics to be considered in international cooperation? Gender equality and inclusiveness, ethics and integrity, dissemination and exploitation, social science and the humanities, open science practices, key enabling technology, social innovation, and EU taxonomy. Okay. How the program promotes international cooperation? Well, Horizon Europe promotes international cooperation in different ways, such as, well, its broadened association policy that now allows more non-EU third countries to become associated to the program. So this making easier this fact. There are topics encouraging or requiring international cooperation, where, I mean, you have to include an international partner, a third country. I mean, if you want to submit a proposal, there are also joint or coordinated calls. Exceptional funding is available for participants from non-associated third countries, twinning activities with entities from non-associated non-EU countries, and topics contributing to the implementation of multilateral or bilateral agreements or initiatives. How the program specifically promotes the participation from Caribbean countries? Well, participation in the Horizon program is open to all countries in the Caribbean. However, European Union funding is not automatically available for the following Caribbean countries: Aruba, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago. In these specific cases, the participants should cover their financing costs through the mechanisms provided in each country. So you will find those countries, you will find in each country a specific mechanism to participate in Horizon Europe. I'm now giving the floor to my colleague, Ellen, to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Before I continue, maybe our fellow technicians can confirm, first of all, if you can hear me well. And second, if you're just seeing the presentation or you're also seeing the Zoom menu, because no, I don't want to bother the audience. You just see the presentation?
Yes, we can see the presentation and we can hear you very, very well. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Because I didn't want to disturb you with the Zoom bar, which I don't seem to be able to get rid of, but it's good if you just see the presentation. So thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to some of you. So now let's have a look at how the EU policies and priorities actually transform into goals. So just as a general overview, all this planning, all this strategic planning process that Roberto just explained, actually crystallizes in very concrete outputs. So we start from the EC legislation that translates into these strategic orientations that we have seen, these 4 strategic orientations as per this multi-annual strategic planning now that we have from 2021 until 2024. Now we have the clusters where the impact expected for them is defined. We're going to see, don't worry, we're going to see what the clusters are in a few minutes. And then we have the destinations and the calls for proposals. So we go from the legislation into the strategic orientation and planning, where the impact is defined, and that is translated into concrete areas. Let's call them areas for the moment, which are clusters. And now this is broken down into different parts of these work programs where we can actually find the calls for proposals to submit our projects. So let me see if this moves along. So this is a summary of what we just said. So from the legislation, we go to different pillars. You will see the structure now. I'm about to explain the structure of Horizon Europe. After you have seen, this is the 9th framework program. I think it was already mentioned by Maite that there's been a long story in the framework program of the European Union. And now we have different pillars, very well defined. You will see that ones are devoted more to excellent science. The other one are more devoted to collaborative projects and research. And then the other one is more related to innovation. And all that is defined in a long process that is trying to be schematized here. So from the legislation, then we plan, and then we come up with the outputs of the work program, these master documents where we can actually find the calls. So let's have a look for those of you who are already familiar with the framework program at some of the main novelties that have been introduced in Horizon Europe. For those of you who knew, H 2020 intended to be a revolution. It was a revolutionary framework program with many, many even more novelties than this one, and a lot of advancement. And it turned out to be quite well. And therefore, Horizon Europe is more of an evolution of that previous work program. Still, there were things that could be improved. So, for instance, the innovation component was still too weak, and therefore there has been set now fully and very strong and with a large budget, a full European Innovation Council to support breakthrough innovation. Now we have the missions. So together with the citizens, the wider society, stakeholders, decision makers, with everyone, academia, all the quadruple, quintuple helix, you name it. Now we have defined 5 missions with some of the most burning issues globally. And there will be calls, or there are being calls actually launched in those specific areas that we are about to see. Now, before there were partnerships, those calls that were launched between the states and then the industry as well, where there is partially funding coming from the Commission, but then it's heavily co-funded or in equal measure co-funded by the states or other actors, mainly the industry. So before there were plenty of partnerships, now there is a large number of them, but it's well spread between the overall structure. And obviously, as Roberto mentioned, the idea of strengthen the international cooperation just keeps growing, especially in the current context. It is crucial to tackle some of the areas that Horizon Europe covers. You will see now with the missions. And then there is also another novelty, is that in H 2020, some advances were made, but now there is full motion related to open science in Europe. So reinforcing openness was one of the key aspects that needed to be improved in this new program. Of course, widen participation, more actors, multilateral partnerships with all kind of participants, all kind of profiles of participants. And then, as has been mentioned previously in this presentation as well, it was very important to find synergies and complementarities with other EU programs to avoid double funding, but to benefit when possible with co-funding, for instance. And needless to say that the administrative burden, for those of you who are familiarized with the program, was massive, and it's little by little being simplified. And we can say, we must admit that this program has actually simpler rules. So let's have a closer look to each of the key novelties that I have mentioned. I think that rather than explaining much more in detail all the key novelties, we want to actually see the structure of the program. But just to give you a note, as I said, the brand new European Innovation Council, it's here to support innovation, and actually this is the pillar for the industry. Is really focused on the participation of micro and small and medium enterprises, to the point that 70% of the budget has been earmarked for them. Okay, so even if the European Innovation Council has different components, those are all under this new, stronger umbrella that looks to support the innovation in Europe. And now we have the mission. So the idea with the missions is to have more impact. Why so? Because there are, as you will see, they are really burning crucial issues that affect us globally. So they have been defined with the support of the citizenship, and they are quite well defined to act globally to make a real impact. So this is more or less, we will see a little bit more in detail now. I want you to see the 5 missions to understand a little bit better what I was mentioning. So this has been co-designed, co-created, these 5 mission areas. So first thing, climate change, including the societal transformation that needs to come along with the adaptation to this climate change. All that is one of the strongest missions. The second one relates to health. Health is very wide, and we have a full pillar devoted to it. So therefore, there is a concrete mission devoted to just one of the most burning issues within the entire health domain, as it is cancer. Then we have the health of our soils and the food we eat. Then we want to achieve these climate neutral cities. We want cities to be smart, to be digitally connected, sustainable, and all, and of course, climate neutral. This is another mission. And then the global aspect by definition, which is the ocean. So there is a full mission devoted to having healthy oceans, to having healthy seas, and also inland and coastal waters are included within this 5th mission. So the next new novelty would be to prolong or to extend the association possibilities, and this is done by, as it was briefly introduced before, extending the openness to association. So more third countries are welcome to participate, especially those who have good capacity in science, technology, and innovation. And the idea is to drive economic growth in Europe through innovation. So all international cooperation is welcome, especially that one that focuses on tackling together those big global societal challenges. So as I said before, we're moving towards open science, open data, open repositories where everyone can access data. This is where we're going. This is what Europe demands, and this is one of the other novelties that has been introduced. For instance, now there is mandatory open access to publications. This is was tested before, but now it's fully enforced. And now there is also that the need to have open access to research data, ensure to the point that for those of you who are involved in proposals, preparation, or maybe already part of a Horizon Europe project, or thinking about it, you must know that now there is a data management plan, which is mandatory, and that needs to comply with all the principles of all these FAIR principles, right? So data need to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So that's another big novelty, because I know I've been in Horizon and previous framework programs for a few years now, and this is coming as a nice surprise. So take note, because this is requested now. So this new approach to partnership, what does it mean? What we have said before, that there is plenty of funding. The funding landscape is massive, plenty of instruments, but now it needs to be rationalized. And that's what Europe has tried with this Horizon Europe Framework Program, and spreading the partnerships in concrete areas of the clusters that we are about to see. So partnerships, just a brief note on this, can be co-programmed, can be co-funded, or can be institutionalized depending on who is involved or who can participate. But the key features are that they're supposedly a simple architecture, that they go through the entire life cycle. So they have this holistic or coherent life cycle approach, and they have a strategic orientation related to the strategic planning. So what do we have devoted for the partnership? So there's nearly 25 billion euros that expect to mobilize at least the same amount from private partners and member states. So as I said, these partnerships launch calls that expect a big portion of co-funding, but they could be also relevant to us. So we will see in a minute what are the clusters, but just to give you an idea, all these are the partnerships and how they are distributed between the different areas. Let's call them now areas for the moment. So we have partnerships there. What does it mean for us? That there will be calls. We can submit projects related to, you name it, rare diseases, photonics, clean aviation, circular bioeconomy, clean hydrogen, agriculture, zero emissions transport, etc. For all of that, there are partnerships. So there are specific calls in the main program, and also from the partnerships. And now that we are moving to excellence science, so there is, of course, the continuity of encouraging the participation in the excellent science pillar, now more fostered than ever, and actually widening the instrument, widening the participation, spreading the excellence on a way that more partners can take advantage if they are doing state-of-the-art, top-notch, groundbreaking research. Okay, so let's have a look at the structure for the moment of Horizon Europe. So this could ring a bell to some of you, and you see that there is like this line that crosses part of the diagram that says Horizon Europe, but what we are more interested, this is the full structure, but we're more interested in is the center of it, because on the left-hand side, we have this column that is the one that concerns funding for defense. And on the right, it's funding for nuclear applications, fusion and fission. But now we are going to focus exclusively on civil applications. So let's have a look at these 3 pillars here. So briefly, I said before, the main components of Horizon Europe are these 3 pillars. The first one is devoted to doing excellent science. And therefore, we have the European Research Council, which is quite well established, unless the European Innovation Council from Pillar 3, which is quite new. So Pillar 1, we have ERC, European Research Council, the so-called Marie Curie actions, now called Maria Sklodowska-Curie actions to fully honor her name. And now we continue to have funding for world leading research infrastructure, all that under Pillar 1. Pillar 2, we have Pillar 2 is actually called Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness. So this is the one to boost research and competitiveness in Europe, and it's done in different areas, and those areas are what we call clusters now, which I'm going to explain in detail. But just to give you an overview, there is one devoted to health, one devoted to culture, and well, more with a more humanistic approach. Then the third one is devoted to civil security for society. Another one that is more digital things. Then there's climate, energy, transport, mobility, etc. And then the environmental one, the one that relates to food, the bioeconomy, natural resources management, agriculture, etc., is the 6th one. And all that is all those collaborative research projects that we might want to submit fall under this pillar 2. And then there is Pillar 3, the one that is devoted to innovation. And let's just have a closer look. So Pillar 1, as I said, it's devoted to increase the scientific competitiveness. So what is done under Pillar 1 are projects that are led, they are written down with a bottom-up approach. So the researcher has complete freedom to explain her or his idea based on the frontier research that is currently doing or has done through the years. So these are the most competitive, the ones that relate to the European Research Council, ERC, they are called ERC grants. Those are top researchers. You may know that ERC grantees, some of them, a few of them, the crop of the cream, actually become Nobel laureates with the time. So we're really talking top notch here. So this is excellence. This is where the excellent science is funded in Europe. And we have also excellent science, but funded through fellowships, and those researchers exchanges that have traditionally fall under the Marie Curie, now Maria Sklodowska-Curie actions. And of course, under this pillar, there is this worldwide infrastructure funded, as I said. So Pillar 2, I'm going to break it down now, but as I said, under Pillar 3 and under Pillar 2, we have the clusters, we have the missions, and within the clusters, some of the partnerships fall in. And for Pillar 3, I have more or less already explained, but there is some main components here that I want you to take note. This is the one that is more market-oriented, more industry-oriented, oriented to support, as we said, SMEs mostly, as 70% of the funding goes for them here. So what do we have here? This other European Institute of Innovation and Technology that also supports capacity building related to innovation. So let's take note. This pillar also seeks to reinforce the integration of the knowledge triangle. So therefore, this they launch all these capacity building calls where universities, but also research centers and the industry are heavily involved. So this is more or less to give you a summary. You will have it. You will have all the full presentation, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe also the recording. So this is just for you to know, to have the summary. And then I jumped, I know, from pillar 1 to pillar 3, because in pillar 2 is where we are going to spend a little bit more time. So just for you to have a clearer picture of what is the budget for this pillar 3, we have it here. And I haven't mentioned that in the lower part of the diagram of what is the structure of Horizon Europe, there was this cross-cutting horizontal pillar for widening the participation. As we said, one of the novelties is to foster the participation of more and more actors from all over the world. So there is the within this cross-cutting pillar, we have widening participation and spreading excellence. For instance, activities related to teaming and twinning, the former European Research Area chairs, the cost actions. Some of those might ring a bell, and also support to the NCPs. As Mrs. Irazabal said, you have an excellent network in Latin America and the Caribbean, and there is some support to NCPs. If you decide to nominate someone as an NCP, now you know that there is under this horizontal pillar the possibility to support them. And then there's this other component of reforming and enhancing the entire European research and innovation system. And there is different targets here. So open science is becoming critical, citizen science, etc., etc., etc. So now back to the big cluster, the biggest one, where we are going to submit collaborative proposals with partners from our region, but also from Europe. So this, as you can see, I have put the summary of the clusters here, just to give you an overview, but we are going to go through all of them. Just for you to know, Pillar 2 alone has a budget. If you remember, the entire program have 95, so 52.7 billion go to this pillar. So we have to pay attention to this one, right? So we mentioned that there was these areas that now have translated into clusters that were defined, and each one of them tackles large, huge research areas, right? So those research areas that were identified have now translated into those clusters where the calls fall. But Pillar 2, what is all this about? What is all this structure? But what can we submit to Pillar 2? So we have 3 types of actions, 3 types of projects. So we have the research and innovation actions. We are talking about projects that are tackling very well-defined challenges, which may lead to development, new knowledge or new technologies. But these are, if some of you are familiarized with the TRL scale, with the technology readiness level, those projects that would have a lower TRL level. So closer to the lab than to the market, so to speak. And then on the other hand, we have the innovation actions. Those have those projects which have very high TRLs, those activities that are closer to the market. So if we're doing a demonstration, if we're doing a prototype, if we're doing the pilot testing, if we are scaling up a project, etc., 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 we are producing new products or services or trying them in natural environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then we are talking about innovation actions. So RIAs, the research and innovation actions, are closer to research. Innovation actions are closer to the market and to the innovation. And then CSAs, the coordination and support actions, there is no research involved here. So projects here are supposed to accompany the other projects, give visibility to them. So they are focusing on raising awareness on one topic. So there could be under all the areas that we have mentioned, health, digital, environment, blah, blah, blah. Under all of them, there will be coordination and support actions. This is good when we do not have so much research capacity in our institution in a particular field, maybe, but we are very good of raising awareness, for instance, or in communication or dissemination of results. Then we might want to join a consortium that is preparing a proposal for a coordination and support action, because it's going to give us visibility as well. So we kind of benefit in a double way. So the clusters. If you remember, during the strategic planning, the clusters were defined, and for each one of them, there are more precise areas of intervention. So for health, there is a number of them because health is a huge topic. So we have health through the life course, non-communicable and rare diseases, tools, technologies, and digital solutions for health and care, including personalized medicines. There is another area more related to environment, etc., more to poverty-related or neglected diseases, and again, an area related to the healthcare system as a whole. Then the second cluster, the one that is dealing with a more humanistic approach, the one that tackles culture, creativity, and having a more inclusive society, has actually defined 3 areas of intervention, which have translated almost literally into calls, one may say. So this cluster is focusing on democracy and governance, social and economic transformation, and then culture, cultural heritage, and creativity. This is a very nice cluster, and as you will see, research, well, as you are very well aware, but we have projects of all kinds, and if our institution has many different research areas, we might not only want to put all the eggs in one basket, and then if we have the primary focus on health, but we also could spread knowledge about some cultural affairs that affect our region in particular, then there is a full cluster devoted to it. And then the next cluster is devoted to civil security for the society. So we want to have a resilient society that is prepared and has a fast response time to crisis or disaster. So this is the pillar. Also a secure society, a protected society. And of course, cybersecurity is a huge deal. Therefore, there is a full area of intervention in that cluster too. Digital industry and space. This cluster is never ending, but it also is very, very interesting and very timely, because we are going to, everything is moving towards digital transformation, digitizing, etc. So all that falls under this cluster. So we have manufacturing technologies, advanced material, the next generation internet, circular industries, space, including Earth observation, EGOS, etc., emerging enabling technologies, which previously fell under another scheme, but now they have been included here. Then key digital technologies, including quantum technologies, artificial intelligence and robotics, then big data, etc. This one actually includes a low carbon and clean industry, but with a more digital focus. We have to think of digital technology, etc. here, and then emerging enabling technologies. The fifth and the sixth one, not minor ones either. So not minors in terms of budget either, climate, energy, and mobility. So everything related to climate science and solutions, the energy systems, energy supply, storage, and everything related to mobility. And that includes transport, transport that is smarter, more sustainable, more accessible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This falls here. And then the sixth one, the one that deals more with environmental matters, with the natural resources, with the food, with the bioeconomy, with the agriculture, etc., has a number of areas of intervention as well, such as the food system, circular system, agriculture, forestry, and rural areas, environmental observation at large, so to speak. But there is also a focus on biodiversity and natural resources, a bio-based innovation system in the EU bioeconomy, and of course, a huge focus on seas, oceans, and inland waters. So, oh, sorry, I think I jumped. So just to not to get lost with all the madness of the structure, a reminder, we had these pillars we saw before, the three pillar and the horizontal one that was more devoted to the widening the participation, increasing the participation. And then we had the clusters. And what do we have within these clusters? Because I have said, okay, there's these areas of intervention. We're going to work in that. But how? I mean, how is this organized? So the clusters, each one of them has a work program, and the work program, which is like a master document where the calls are published, are organized in the scheme as follows. So for each cluster, we have destinations, and for each destination we have calls. And within each call, there will be specific topics to which we can submit our projects. So if I may move to the next one, let's have a look, a little bit of a closer look at the health cluster. We have seen the areas of intervention, a number of them. You will have them in full, and you will have the presentation, as we said. But then, what are the main objectives of this cluster? I'm mentioning them here because you will see that there, through the life cycle preparation of a project proposal, you always need to take into account the largest objectives of the cluster. What was the general purpose? So there will be different different calls, and we can submit projects to many of the different components mentioned here. But one of the objectives is to improve and protect the health and well-being of the citizens of all ages, preventing, diagnosing, monitoring, treating, and curing diseases. So this is one of the main objectives. So some of the projects will be related to this. Some of them will be more related to developing health technologies. So mitigating health risks, protecting the populations, and promoting good health and well-being. And as you have seen, this is a very reasonable and timely objective. The next one, make public health system more cost-effective, equitable, and sustainable as well. So it's actually one of the areas of intervention to tackle poverty-related diseases. So this is not only one of the main objectives of this cluster, but it has a full area of intervention with specific destinations. So, sorry. What are the destinations? So the destinations relate very closely to the areas of intervention that have been defined for the cluster. So we're talking health here. There will be calls here, and they fall under some biggest umbrella that are called destinations. So there will be a specific calls with specific topics related to staying healthy. There will be another big umbrella for living and working in healthy environments. Then another one for tackling diseases and reducing the disease burden. Another one for accessing innovative, sustainable, and high quality healthcare. This one, relates more to the overall entire healthcare system that we mentioned before. Another one to unlock the full potential of the new tools and technology and all these digital solutions that are now available for supporting and for achieving a healthy society. And now another one for maintaining an innovative, sustainable, and globally competitive health industry. You may say these are very large and very extensive destinations. They are, because each of the calls breaks down all the components here, and there are specific topics where you can submit your proposals. Now for cluster 2, this is the one that was focusing on a more having a more democratic Europe, and in general a more democratic governance and fostering citizen participation. There have been more or less scant funding in promoting cultural heritage, but now it is much more reinforced here. And then there is also the component of supporting the cultural transformation. Yes, having a look into all the social, economic, technological, and cultural components, but responding to this multi-dimensional area of knowledge. So the destinations are clean-cut, right, tackling the objectives, one for democracy and governance, one for European cultural heritage and creative industries and cultural, and then another one for this social and economic transformation that we were mentioned. Now, cluster 3, this is the one that tackles resilience, disaster prevention, or being resilient to disaster when they happen, protection and security of the citizens, and also protection towards cyber attacks. And therefore, there is the area of intervention related to cybersecurity. And the destinations that have been defined here are more or less word by word related to the areas of intervention. In particular, that related to disaster risk, the risk reduction, there is a number of calls, also huge number of calls related to protecting the borders, but also the infrastructures. This is all very timely and much needed as it is fighting the crime and terrorism. Now, this huge digital cluster, which includes even the space component. So this is to lead the way into digital transformation, etc., in the world. This is to make the EU industry a leader in key areas that actually enable to achieve a production and consumptions that respect the boundaries of the planet, but also maximize the benefits. So we want to achieve to have a very competitive and digitalized economy, but also that is respectful, and an economy that is also circular, sustainable, etc., etc., etc. So the destinations that have been described here are climate neutral, circular, and digitized production. So plenty of topics in that regard. Also related to increase the autonomy, especially in key strategic value chains for having a resilient industry. Then data and computing technologies, then digital and emerging technologies for increasing the competitiveness and to be ready for this Green Deal, this European Green Deal that you might have heard of, this huge environmental package and pact of the new European Commission. And then there is another destination devoted to open strategic autonomy in developing, deploying, and using global space-based infrastructure. This is more related to space data, etc. And then a human-centered and ethical development of digital and industrial technologies. Topics related to that are also published under this cluster. Now, the one that relates to climate change, mobility, and the transport, and making it more environmental friendly, more efficient, etc. As we said, cluster 5, and therefore this is what the objectives or the clusters are about, and so are accordingly the destinations. So the first one would be climate sciences and responses to the transformation towards climate neutrality. Another one more related to cross-sectoral solutions for the climate transition. So many different topics here. Then one related to sustainable, secure, and competitive energy supply. Another one more related to the energy use. Another one more related to making all transport modes cleaner and more competitive. And then another one more related to making transport of both passengers and goods safer, more resilient, and smarter. And then the last cluster, cluster number 6, is, as we said, heavily focused on reducing the environmental degradation, and also reduce the huge biodiversity decline and biodiversity in any ecosystem. It may be land, inland, water, sea, all of them, and also to manage better the natural resources, but also food security is very important here, and therefore all the thing that relates to agriculture, fisheries, aquaculture, etc., are also here in view of making them more efficient, more circular, etc. And the destinations that have been defined here are biodiversity and ecosystem, for healthy and environmental friendly food systems from the primary production to consumption. All this from production to consumption, it's quite a big deal at the moment. And there are plenty of topics in that regard. So if you are in any of the parts of the value chain, you will have calls there. You may be doing research, but you may also be an industry, or you may just be a consumer. So there's plenty of room to propose nice projects in that area, as there is in the circular economy and the bioeconomy sectors, which don't stop to grow, fortunately. And there is also a destination devoted to clean environment and to achieving a zero pollution ecosystems. And then the 5th one is related to land, ocean, and water for climate action. So mostly focus on those components here. Many topics related to ocean, many topics related to land degradation, etc., etc., etc. here. Then on the 6th one is the one that is more devoted to resilient, inclusive, healthy, and green rural, coastal, and urban communities. So we're putting the focus on the community here. And then the last one relates more to governance. So we are going to have innovative solutions to support this Green Deal that I mentioned before. That it's the new setup, the new mindset that we need to have now. It's that all solutions that are developed now contribute, in Europe at least, if they have the slightest touch of environment or repercussion in climate change, etc., 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 they need to support the Green Deal package. And therefore, we have this topic of innovative governance, environmental observations, and digital solutions to support that, European Act. Therefore, it is important kind of know, where does all this come from? You remember there was European legislation. So now if we want to submit a topic for this destination, we most likely will have to read about what is this Green Deal. So how do I find, with all this information, with all these destinations, clusters, everything, where are the topics where I can submit my project? So here they are. We have this master documents we mentioned. For each cluster, we have a work program. Even if Horizon Europe is published on a multi-annual level, on a 7 years basis, 8 years basis, whatever, the work programs are published biannually. So now we have the calls that were in the work programs for each of the clusters. Now we have the calls that were published and closed in 2021 and the ones that are open for this year. So what is the structure of this document? So if we go to the table of content, you will see destination. All those destinations go somewhere. They are here. You see, there is destination 1. This was an example that we took from cluster 1, which is the one that relates to health. So destination 1, health, we have the calls here, you see? So this one was related to staying healthy in a rapidly changing society. So there are different calls here. And you see, there is a call here. And inside each of the calls, there are different topics. So to those, we can submit our project ideas, or we can look for partners to join in if when we read the topic, we see that it's very relevant and relates to the work that we do at our research group, at our institution, at our department, etc. Okay, so this is the structure. So once that you access the work program, you will see all this, everything is explained, etc. And where are the calls published? Where is the information? So Maite very kindly mentioned before that the calls are published in what is called the funding and tender portal. I'm also going to mention not only where the calls are published, also another website where we can see previous projects just to get some inspiration, right? So if we go to the funding and tender portals, we will see a page like this. So in the page, we go here, you see in the yellow bit, it says search funding and tenders. So there we can write everything. We can type everything we want. I recommend you to, if you see a little bit below, it says in the square, submission stages, forthcoming and open. Those are the topics that are open or about to be open, where we can submit our projects. So once that we do the search, they appear on the right. So funding and tenders show that there are 15 topics related to what we look for here, which in this case was migration. So once that you access one of the topics, you will see that there is the topic, but there is another example. So in this case, I look for the topic marine litter and pollution, right? So there is a topic related to that, actually to making a smart and low environmental impact fishing gears. So once that you go there, you see the general information about the topic. So this is a Horizon Europe program, then there is the call, and then you see where it closes. You see that it closes on the 12th of May, and then this one opened on the 12th of May, and it will close. We will have to submit our project by September 27th. So if you scroll down in the topic, you will see what they want. You will see what is the expected outcome, what is the scope of the topic, etc. Everything is in detail. You will see here all the conditions, all the templates, all the documents related to the topic to allow you to submit the project. They are here. You can find them here in the portal, okay? An important part, if you go to where it says partner search, is that you can see here people who are looking for partners to submit a proposal here. This could be very useful for you if you, so for instance, I look for this topic here, and then we saw this institution, just one of the examples, that one institution that is offering their services. So you may do this. And to do this, if you say this topic really is really interesting for me, you may have your short bio here of your department here, so you can be seen by anyone that wants to participate in the topic, and a coordinator might spot you and bring you on board of the proposal. How do you do that? You need to log in, and to log in, you need to create, don't worry, because you will have all the instructions. You need to create an account. If you don't have an EU login account, you can create one, and you can do this for as many topics as you want, okay? So you can, if you have 10 calls that are interesting for you, I recommend you to put your profile there so you can be seen. Another important source of information is the Cordis website. You can see here, just to get inspiration, previous projects. So you can see previous projects, it groups in results packs. It's a very nice website as well for you just to see even specific information about projects, because if you continue, you will see that you can see a project that was particularly interesting for you. And in this website, you could see the duration of the project, who was the coordinator, etc. So I recommend you to take a look at it. You can filter by project and results, etc. You put whatever term, in this case, I put inclusions, and then you can get previous project, previous results, etc. It's very interesting. Now, this is a reminder of you for you to have a look at the General Horizon Europe portal, and the links are included at the end of the presentation. Also, I encourage you to participate in the info days, in the information days, and the brokerage events. As Maite mentioned, some events are actually disseminated or communicated through them. So be alert. Obviously, pay attention to the work that they are doing and subscribe to their newsletter, so you know about specific topics that are more relevant to your region. And this is just a summary of the timeline, how to get funding. So you find the opportunity in the work program, you find the partners, you may put yourself there or look for previous projects and then find a potential coordinator, you do your account, etc., until you start working and submit your proposal. So this is a list of relevant links for you from the funding and tenders portal, etc., all the guidelines from the Horizon Europe program, general program guidelines, etc., relevant networks such as Enrich that was mentioned previously, and also Enterprise Europe Network. You might want to link with them to find businesses. Other relevant links here, how you create the EU login account, etc., and the links to the work programs. And just a small note on Open Science and IPR, because I know I have passed the time. Sorry about that. Open Science is growing momentum, so we need to do early and open sharing of research, and we need to do research output management from the beginning. We need to do this data management plan. We need to measure to ensure reproducibility of our data and our research outputs. We need to provide open access to the research outputs. Pay attention to this. We need to participate in open peer review to the possible extent, and we need to involve all relevant actors, including citizens, data accessible to them as well. These are the legal documents related to that. And yeah, sorry for taking a little bit longer than expected, and thank you so much for your attention. We remain available for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellen and Roberto, for that very detailed, informative session on Horizon. It's certainly, at least for me, and I know for some of the participants just looking at the comments that was made, it certainly has demystified the program and how we can actually approach the program to access the funding. We will now go on to the last session that we have. And we are going up over time, but I ask that you bear with us, because this session we're covering the experiences from within the region. We will start first with the experiences of the University of the West Indies, where we have 2 presenters, and then we will go on to a 3rd presenter from the Coconut Industry Board in Jamaica. So our first speaker, this next set of speakers will be Miss Debbie Emamdie and Professor Celia Christie Samuels, as I said, from the University of the West Indies, who will be sharing their experiences. Miss Emamdie holds a degree in agriculture and specializes in livestock and agricultural economics, crop science, with emphasis on plant breeding and biochemistry. She has experience in from the University of West Indies, working on framework programs in terms of financial and management procedures. Professor Celia Samuels is one of the FURI's foremost internationally recognized and respected health researchers. She is a professor in pediatrics and infectious diseases with a long history of working in collaboration with international academic institutions in terms of research, including emerging infectious diseases and vaccines clinical trials. I invite you both to make your presentation.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name, as Wendy has kindly indicated, my name is Debbie Emamdie, and I'm from the University of the West Indies. And it is, of course, together with my colleague, Professor Christy Samuels, our pleasure to make a very short presentation to you this morning. Before I go on, I would sincerely like to thank everyone for their participation, as well as the excellent presentations done by Elen, Roberto, and Maite. They were extremely informative, and we have found them to be very, very instructive. So thank you all very much again. The University of the West Indies, of course, welcomes this initiative this morning, and we are very much looking forward to participating in Horizon Europe with our Caribbean partners. We know that most of you are already aware of the University of the West Indies, and you're already familiar with us. So I will just make a very brief presentation here. Next slide, please. And just to give you a little context, we were created in 1962 through a royal charter with a triple mandate to advance learning, create knowledge, foster innovation. And of course, all of this was aimed at positive transformation of the Caribbean and the wider world. Now, the university comprises 5 campuses that we began in 1962, and up to present, we have significantly expanded by 2019 to extend our geographic reach from Belize in Central America to Trinidad and Tobago in the Southern Caribbean. Now, as the university has expanded its portfolio and its capabilities, we recognize that we needed to have a presence in other continents in order to bring the world closer to us as we have reached out to the rest of the world. And with that in mind, we created 10 global centers, which are currently spread across North America, Latin America, Europe, Africa, and Asia, so that as we are reachable, so we are reaching out to others. And of course, as we go out, we bring our Caribbean partners with us. Next slide, please. So in terms of a little bit of our reputation, since 2018, we were registered in the Times Higher Education World University Rankings, and by 2022, we are now in the top 500 universities in the world. So this again gives the rest of the world the knowledge that here a university within the Caribbean region has been able to amass and to compete very, very strongly with many other first world universities. And so this again is a glowing testament of not just our capabilities, but the capabilities of the people of the Caribbean region. Next slide, please. Most times, because again of this global reach that we have been able to and through our excellence in the work that we do, we are oftentimes the first port of call for all local, regional, and international agencies seeking validated knowledge of the Caribbean. Now, how do we engage in, and what are the benefits to some of our next slide, please. Yes. And so what we have seen is that in terms of the benefits that these international collaborations and regional and local collaborations have brought us, ultimately, we have been able to generate key knowledge to drive the Caribbean's economic growth and development. It has given us an international recognition in the research landscape. It has increased our international competitiveness through our global research consortia. And these consortia are formed through manifold opportunities with research institutions, inclusive of universities, other research entities, as well as some now as we are expanding further into entrepreneurship. We are building out those partnerships. Most of them also do include some of our regional partners. And these opportunities also allow the university to utilize Caribbean-driven data to guide some of our decision-making in our regional and international research landscapes. We also contribute through these mechanisms to global advancement of knowledge and finding common solutions from sometimes a Caribbean perspective, because as you are aware, there are unique instances in the Caribbean where our data are extremely valid because it gives the specific conditionalities of the Caribbean region, which are unique and are not therefore translatable to the other regions. Some of these include climate and health. And also through these consortia, we also improve the quality and relevance of our research and teaching programs. Next slide, please. Now, the next couple slides, what we will show are some of the lessons that we have learned through participating in specifically the Horizon projects. And under those, what we have found is that when we are invited to collaborate, those proposals are more likely to succeed than sometimes when we have attempted to go out to find our own and form our own consortia. Some of the reasons for these is that the Horizon programs are mainly targeted with Europe as the primary beneficiary. And they therefore have a greater on-the-ground knowledge of what are the topics as well as the form of the ideas that we develop are more likely to succeed. So what we do, we synergize with them, and therefore we bring our Caribbean knowledge, we bring our Caribbean needs into play here with them, synergizing the two sets of ideas, as well as from, of course, our Latin American region. And together, those tri-regions, we have been able to produce quite a number of proposals, some of which we have been very successful in obtaining. Some we have not been quite as successful, but it's all a learning curve for us. Now, what we've also learned is that our international reputation plays a very significant role in these invitations. As Ellen has indicated, usually through the partner search, the organizations will go in there and they will seek to get partners. Because of the well-known reputation of UWI, we have really found ourselves needing to be known as we are quite well known. So we get significant amounts of invitations through, not just through Horizon, but through other initiatives as well. What we've also found as part of the lessons learned, that sometimes shared visions increase our chances of success far better because the consortium members are all aligned to the same vision, and as a result of it, the partnership is better aligned. We also have found that the ideas that are generated and then the writing of the proposals are also stand much better chance of approval. Horizon is one of the most competitive programs in the world, and therefore our proposals have to be really top-notch in order to make the cut. What we've also found that all of the European institutions are the primary decision makers in determining the consortia partners. They are also open to listening to what partners in the Caribbean and Latin America have to offer. And so we have found that there is that level of openness and that level of collegiality. And then of course, what we have also found, it is important to join and maintain our research networks. And why do we do this? We may invest in call one, but because, and it may or may not succeed, but because we have now formed this partnership and because we are all very well known to one another by the end of our proposal development, we have also bonded in a human fashion. And that bonding has allowed us to share knowledge. It has allowed our European colleagues to have to share other opportunities with us. Sometimes they may be interested, sometimes they may not, but they will open up further opportunities to us. So this expansion of one research consortium multiplying into manifold has been of immense value to the UWI. Next slide, please. So this slide just is to give a sense that the UWI is very, very keen to continue engaging in the Horizon programs. In the next few slides, you will see some of the projects. Just go back a little bit. Yes, stay there. And for those slides that you will then see, you would see that we've had a few successful projects, and that in addition to the international partnerships that we have already engaged in, we are very committed to retaining and advancing collaboration with our regional partners, most of whom we have already built excellent relationships in other EU-funded initiatives, such as the European Development Fund. For some of our interested participants, some of our key areas of research that we are currently very engaged in includes agriculture, climate, health, innovation and entrepreneurship, environment, culture, digitalization. As you can see, all of these fall within the thematic, particularly pillar 2 that Elen kindly showed us a little while ago. And so as we build these out, because these are all highly relevant to Caribbean development, and it is one of the reasons that the University of the West Indies is very heavily focused and invested in advancing. Next slide, please. And to give some tips in addition to those that Elen provided, one of the ones that she would have indicated, which I reiterate, is foster the active participation of your institution in relevant events. Sometimes, info days are the ones like these webinars, and any other ones that would provide continuous information, because what we will find is that there may be slight adjustments at times, or there may be other opportunities in addition that we can participate in, and which could lead to some degrees of higher successes. Use the resources provided by the EU and the national contact point networks, as well as other organizational sources such as partners' websites, because we also find a number of partners as we expand these partnerships. They also post some of these opportunities on their websites, and we can access them there very quickly. As Elen pointed out, in order to participate, we have to register in the EU's participant portals and allow institutions to find us in the partners search. Now, these next few slides I'll go through very quickly because I would like to give my colleague, Professor Christy Samuels. So this is just to give a little flavor of some of the programs that we got, the projects that we got funded under the just finished Horizon 2020 program. And this now, it tells us, as you will see, most of these were funded under the Research and Innovation Action. ZEEC Action will be discussed in some more detail by our project lead, Professor Christy Samuels, but in terms of the EULAC Museum, EULAC Focus, New Horizon, these have just been completed and they were all very successful. They had very good impact from both from the actors in which we engage, as well as the EU. Macrobios is currently ongoing. It is on marine sciences, and it is currently being implemented by our KFIL campus. The only one that we were fortunate enough to get involved in, it's the MSc RISE program, and this is on staff exchanges, and this is really about more human development. And so we were very pleased to have been able to now begin to build our capacity there on that program. And so this, at this time, concludes my presentation. And of course, this is just to give a little idea of what within the CORDIS website. Can you just go back just one moment, Marianne, just go flip back to the other 3 slides. Thank you. So just to give a little sense of these, go forward. Next slide. And this is just to give a little sense, and you can just flip back through them again, just to see what they look like within CORDIS. And so when you enter there, you will get some more details of what these projects were about, what they achieved, and how you can synergize with the knowledge already gained there into upcoming calls in which you can participate. So it's already a very, very good source of what we would call our background context as we write the our new proposals. So thank you very much for your time this morning. And I'm very pleased to have been able to make this very short presentation and look forward very much to collaborating with you now. I now turn over to my colleague in Jamaica, Professor Christy Samuels. Thank you.